As you might know, psychology defines itself as a scientific discipline. In other words, psychology uses systematic research methods to increase knowledge and understanding. Given that, the recording for this class makes frequent reference to different types of studies. Given that students from multiple disciplines take this class, I want to make sure everyone's familiar with a few of the main ideas related to research. If you've taken a research class, those ideas will probably seem familiar. And if you haven't taken a research class, I hope they seem relatively straightforward. The main topics that are helpful to understand are the types of studies and how we can evaluate a measure. The technical terms are research design, reliability, and validity. You won't need to be able to go through all of the steps to design a study or even critique a study, but it's going to be helpful to understand the concepts well enough to be able to answer the questions for this module. That understanding will also help you get an idea of where they're coming from when we talk about each of the topics in class. When we think about research designs, the main idea is that we can go about gathering data for research in multiple ways, and each of those ways helps us understand something different. As you're reading, you'll want to know what we can understand from each of the three basic types of designs: experimental, quasi-experimental, and non-experimental. As we're thinking about those ways of designing a study, we also need to think about reliability and validity. Those ideas apply to multiple parts of the research process, but in our case, we're interested in how they relate to the ways we measure variables. When we measure something, we're trying to determine how much of something we have. In IO, we're usually trying to figure out where a person fits in a range of possible scores for knowledge, skills, abilities, or other individual difference characteristics. It's a fancy term we'll learn more about soon. Those measures are used for a number of things, including deciding whether to hire a person for a job. So we want to make sure we have a good measure, which is formally described as reliable and valid. One of the questions we can ask is whether the measure is consistent, otherwise known as reliable. If it's not consistent, we really can't draw any knowledge from the results because we don't know how much of the variation is because of what we're interested in and how much of it's because of the measure. The textbook talks about the ways we can determine if a measure is reliable. If it's reliable, then we need to ask what we're measuring. We need to question the validity of the measure. The types of validity can be a little overwhelming, but I have a feeling the idea is familiar. If you've ever heard someone say, "I knew the material, I just have a hard time with multiple choice tests," you've heard someone question the validity of a measure. The readings explain the concepts in more detail, and the discussion is going to help you think about how those concepts can be applied to analyze the Kingdomality personality profile you completed during the orientation module. Hopefully, the combination of resources and activities will help you understand the textbook meaning of the concepts, as well as what the topics really mean to you.